My name is TotalBiscuit, and I suck at Starcraft 2. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special edition of I Suck at Starcraft 2. It's a bit of a double bill today. I'm going to show you two matches that I played on the 9th of March. Now, these games, I will happily say, result in my victory. However, there are a number of things that, as a new player, you should bear in mind when watching my opponent and see just how many mistakes the opponent made and how my skills, what little of them I had, actually developed to allow me to win these games. Now, you can see I've got the block sorted out, and I was watching a number of replays, reading a number of forums, and they told me, well, Marines Marauders is a great strategy, particularly against early game Protoss. So, of course, I decided to do exactly that. Now, in the meantime, he's gone for 2 gateways. Now, generally speaking, if you build 2 gateways, you expect an early Zealot rush. Now, that works really well against Zerg, but against a walled-off Terran player, not so much. You're talking about charging your Zealots into a line of gunfire and having them try and hack their way through the block. It's not a particularly smart idea. Now, if he was going to go in really early, he should have done just that, as in gone in with 4 or 5 Zealots, got in there and done some damage, but he hasn't. And therein lies the problem. Now, in the meantime, of course, I've got 3 barracks already. I've got a reactor going up on one of them, and I've got an engineering bay going up as well. So my plan was to go engineering, get myself a +1 weapon upgrade, maybe get a marine shield, stim pack, something like that. Whatever the case, just go Marines and Marauders and see what happened. Now, he's finally going in with about 7 Zealots. And what do you think's going to happen here? He's going to run into that, which is not going to result in a good ending for him, let me put it that way. In the meantime, I'm building Reapers. I had this obsession. I continue to have an obsession with Reapers. It's rather unhealthy. Hangs around at the bottom of there for no good reason at all. Should have, again, gone in earlier when I had less firepower at my disposal. And what you could have done maybe to break that block is move his injured Zealots to the back, rotate them around. But in the meantime, he's standing there, letting me harass him with Reapers and fire from the top of that cliff, which is incredibly dumb. Now, of course, my micro's terrible, so I managed to lose a Reaper there, of all things, but still. He's running backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. What does he think he's going to do? That's what I have to wonder here. Now, this is a lesson that you have to learn. Just because you have committed to an attack does not mean that you cannot retreat. It is pointless to throw away 7 Zealots for no gain whatsoever. You know, taking out a single Reaper is not a good trade, I'm afraid. If you are taking damage that way, the best thing you can do is back the hell off. I understand the psychological need for vengeance, but really, it's not going to happen. It's a waste of resources. Now, he's gone double Stargate, which is fine, but he hasn't got any Stalkers of any kind, and oh look, I've got Reapers. I think the worst thing about it, more so than anything, is he didn't build any Stalkers, even though he knew that I had Reapers. He saw them. He was killed by them. Now, you can't go too hard on this guy. The fact of the matter is this was done in Copper League. He was a Copper League player. He was probably just starting the game. But what you can do as a new player is learn from this. And just learn that friends don't let friends never build a Stalker. Honestly. Protoss players are so vulnerable to early Reaper harassment, and the only real way to counter it early game is to build Stalkers, is to have those ranged units available. If you don't have them, look what happens. You lose your entire mineral line. What are your Zealots going to do? They're going to run around after my Reapers? Yeah, what difference is that going to make? Answer, of course, being nothing. Still not building any Stalkers at all. Now, I understand that you might want to just give up at this point. To be honest, if you lost your entire mineral line, you're effectively dead, unless the opposing player is incredibly dumb. But what you can try and do is try and minimize the damage of that kind of thing. Now, of course, I've got a bunch of Marines Marauders. He's got 3 Zealots. I think the result of this is pretty obvious. But what really gets me is the fact that he didn't wait at the top of that cliff. There's a little tip for those of you going up against Reapers. If you want to kill them, stand at the top of the cliff. I can't see what's at the top of that cliff. You can ambush me when I jump up there. There's a moment where, in the middle of the jump, you cannot move, and Reapers are absolutely made of paper. You can shred them, especially with Zealots. So if you're able to trap them there, then it's all good. Now, of course, this is the end game. He has no chance at this point in time. It's just a real shame that he saw what was coming and yet built nothing to counter it. Never, ever do that. Never think that the opponent's just going to sit on his laurels with a bunch of units when he could be attacking with them. Aggression is all it's about. And of course that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of that. What could he have done? Well, to be honest, again, going in with the Zealots early, not a particularly smart move against Terran. He didn't scout, he wasn't aware of how many guys that I had up there, and it just ended in a massacre. And again, he overcommitted and he refused to pull back. Not a particularly smart move. I lost effectively nothing. 1 Reaper and a Marine. That's about it. Maybe it could have even been an SCV, I can't remember. Whatever the case, 2 units lost versus 37. It's not a contest. Right, let's move on to the next one, shall we? And see what this fellow does. Now, this is a Zerg player, and I, of course, am playing Terran on the Desert Oasis, so let's kick it off and we'll speed it up just a little bit. Now, I'm not particularly imaginative in my early build orders at this point in time. To be fair, I don't vary it up anyway. There is a strategy on the Desert Oasis that works particularly well. It involves building a so-called proxy barracks. You build a barracks close to the enemy base, you then lift it off and land it in their base, because there's a lot of space that you could potentially plonk that barracks and have nobody notice it. It's kind of cheesy, it's a little bit unpleasant, but hey, it works, something you might want to try. Another possibility is that you go early barracks instead of going early supply depot, which gimps your economy early game, but it allows you to get out a couple of early Reapers, which can cause absolute economic havoc. Now, he's gone with early Roaches, which is a smart bet, particularly at this point. This was pre all of the Roach nerfs. Roaches were a fantastic unit against almost everything Terran had. They were really good. Now they've been nerfed in terms of armor, speed, all manner of things. It's not too good. Now, carrying on my obsession with Reapers, I end up building 2 barracks with 2 tech labs. Not necessarily the best of ideas, but Desert Oasis is quite nice for Reapers. There's a lot of different potential entry points. You can jump in and do a lot of damage. What can I say? It was sort of a teenage obsession of mine. Build as many Reapers as you can to see what happens. GGG. And so forth. It works pretty well against unprepared players. In the meantime, he's building Roaches, which would be very nice. I mean, you can go in quite early with that. He's also building a Nidus network. Now, this tactic involves building a Nidus network, which is a tunnel system. You can pop it up somewhere in the base, put some Roaches in it, pop up, do a lot of damage. It's a good early game harassment technique, if a little bit expensive for the Zerg player. Nidus Worm itself is quite costly. You then have to pay on a per worm basis. And of course, if it's noticed while it's burrowing, then, hey, you're just throwing away a bunch of money. I'm going to go and have a look-see, see what my Reapers can find out. Quite a lot, as it happens. I mean, there's not a lot of defense there. He's put most of his Roaches into the Nidus network, and he's going to pop them out momentarily. Thankfully, since I have those double tech labs, and I also scouted him with that Marine earlier, I spotted the Roaches, and I started building some Marauders. I didn't, stupidly enough, spot the Nidus Worm. I had absolutely no idea he had it. It's easy to see on the replay, but I wasn't paying attention. Just standing over there, losing my mineral line in an incredibly unpleasant manner. But I have plenty of Marauders. It's a good job that I saw those Roaches coming. Able to push them back in relatively short order with some Marine support as well. It's got a lot of Roaches, but just doesn't do the job. Now, what he should have really done here is just gotten the hell out of there. He did borrow a couple of them, and I'm able to scan them out and kill his Nidus network. So that's a pretty big loss in terms of resources. It was a good harassment because it's crippled my economy, but crippling the economy, one has to analyze as to whether or not it's a good idea to spend all those units to kill a bunch of SCVs. A lot of the time it is, but I feel that some players overemphasize the importance of killing drones workers on the mineral line. In the meantime, of course, I'm able to do exactly the same thing with the Reapers, hop down the cliff. And again, same mistake. Don't do this. Seriously, most Terran players will just hop up at exactly the same point. Leave your guys there, don't try and chase Reapers, it's stupid. They can generally outrun you, especially if they've got the upgrade as mine do. Hasn't popped anything into the Nidus as of yet, and I'm rebuilding my SCVs. Funnily enough, I'm not paying any attention to them. I've got them hanging around there for no good reason at all. But we're both on almost zero income. I gutted his mineral line, he gutted mine. Now, I also built a couple of these missile turrets, which are detectors. They will stop those roaches from burrowing if he tries this again, which, funnily enough, he does. Also happens to get rid of the overseers and the overlords hanging around. That's always nice. Nidus Worm does require line of sight, by the way. You can't just pop it up anywhere you like. Speed it up just a little bit here. Nothing really happens. I'm trying to rebuild my economy. He's trying to rebuild his. My mules do help me get the economic advantage at this stage of the game. Now, I think one of the mistakes that he really made here was the fact that he saw that I had a lot of marauders and I was probably going to continue building marauders. What happened? He built more roaches. That was his counter possible. And yet another Nidus, and this time I'm absolutely ready for him. Tons of marauders, absolutely got his roach forces. I lost a couple of marines, but really not a big deal. The lesson to be learned here is if you see your opponent's built a hard counter, then unless you're trying to play mind games with them, don't do the same thing again. And I expected quite a few roaches, so I built more marauders, and invariably he built more roaches. Not good. Doesn't end well for you. This is the point where you tech switch, you diversify into something a little bit more interesting. You don't just keep hammering away at the same strategy over and over again. Like, hey, let's build more roaches. Why? I have, what, 5-6 times the marauders you do? One must also be careful not to overcommit to strategies like Nidus Worm. It's a big investment, so it's understandable you want to get the most use out of it possible. But at the end of the day, Nidus Worm is situational, whereas Marines and Marauders, they ain't situational. Unless the situation is every frickin' battle early game. It's a big, nice force. I know he's got roaches, sending a couple of Marines just for extra, just in case he decides to vary things up with some Zerglings. But at the end of the day, what's he going to do against that? Nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, absolutely nothing. And as a result, he loses. He was building his Hydralisk Den, but it was way too little too late. So the lesson to be learned here, ladies and gentlemen, this goes for any faction, is if you are aware your opponent has loads of hard counters, then for God's sake, don't just keep beating your head against the wall in a hope that it falls down. It doesn't work. My name is TotalBiscuit, and I still suck at Starcraft 2. I'll see you next time.